Right. So, hey students, we'll be welcome to another weekly course review call. We'll be discussing Unit 5th and 6th in today's call. So, in Unit 5th, like we finished part 1 in the previous call, today we will be discussing part 2 and part 3 of Unit 5th. So, Unit 5, part 2 basically covers frauds and how contracts are affected by them. In first part, we have fraud in sales and negotiation. So professor starts off with this unit with two examples. One is an old car with adjusted odometer and a tenant who runs a coffee shop. The arrangement made in both the above examples were based on lies or basically frauds. So in both the cases, both the cases, the car buyer as well as the tenant, the shop owner, had the power to call the deal off. I think those two were like pretty straightforward examples. Do you guys have anything to chime on regarding those examples? Or what were your thoughts basically?
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's pretty straightforward. To have a negotiation, and then if you don't have all the details that are truthful and accurate for both parties, then obviously if you start lying about stuff, there should be no deal at all. Because I'm sure if one of the important details was based off of that lie, then they probably wouldn't have gone through with it in the first place. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they covered it in this first part already, but like he did make a distinction between like straight up lying and like kind of false advertising,
Yeah,
which is legal,
yeah,
which
which
is
is
like
BS.
which is like a vague way of telling like something like, "Oh my God, this product is so amazing! So many people love this product, etc."
Right.
Right? That's like if you would fall for that without like
That
uh,
happens every day, everywhere.
yeah,
The,
exactly. If you would
the
fall for that
entire,
without doing your own research, the court will not stand behind you.
honestly, all the beauty product companies and all those companies are making profits out of false advertisements. If the court if people could really win cases or make money by suing them, they would have been bankrupt by now.
Yeah,
They
look at
claim
all the commercials and the slogans, for example. Like you could just sue them from
right,
every slogan that they make because every company uh, like claims to have the best product in the world or the best
right.
this or the best that, but there's no way for that to uh,
Mm-hmm.
confirm that, and that's why the court will not stand behind it. So that's more like false advertisement.
Right.
Uh,
So
instead
talking
of
about
just
this, so regarding this, we discussed an example earlier. I think you didn't join the university group by then. So in India, I think you might be aware of HUL, Unilever Group. Basically, it's a giant FMCG company which runs over basically all across the globe in a lot of countries. It's Unilever. So they were having a beauty product. They named it as Fair and Lovely for and they were marketing as if you use this product you can easily get fairer and you can reduce your skin tone to lighter color. So because they were they were pushing the ideology that you should be fair, fair color basically is more good. They were pushing that ideology which is totally not good. So what actually happened, one person with darker skin tone bought the product, consistently used the product for 3 to 4 months, didn't see any changes, and then sued the company for mental harassment and all those stuff. And the company really had to pay the person because they claimed that if you use their product you can get fairer, and the person with a darker skin tone didn't see any result. So this false advertisement can get the company sometimes in trouble, but yeah, many times they can get their way around it.
yeah, but in that case, I'm not even sure if that's false advertisement, but it's just straight up lying. Like they've made up a product that doesn't work,
Right.
and also like maybe one other reason why they where they might have won, which is not really related to false advertisement or lying. It's just straight up passing, uh, making darker skinned people feel like they have a problem,
Right.
and that should be
Basically,
illegal too, because
right, they were,
that's unconstitutional for other
and you
reasons.
wouldn't believe, like, last month they had to change their name to, like, instead of fair, they use the word glow. They had to change their name because indirectly they were advertising that you should have a fairer skin, and darker skin is not good by their branding of their products. So last month, like, people literally sued the company because they were, like, basically penetrating the thought into people that if you have a dark skin, it's not good, which is kind of like, the company should be conscious about. Company had to change the name due to public question, and they changed the name to, like, Glow and Lovely or something like that.
Yeah.
This also kind of reminds me of drop shipping. And I'm sure we're all kind of, aware of it, where you're just buying stuff from Alibaba and then you're reselling it for like 10x the price or whatever.
Hmm.
And I feel like if there were some laws saying like, hey, like you need to say if this is like a drop shipped item or not, then yeah, a lot of people would go out of business. So
I'm sorry, what's a drop shipped item? Like, what's
Yeah,
the
please elaborate.
definition?
Even I don't know that.
so drop shipping is basically when you're purchasing items at a discount from websites like Alibaba, where it's more cheaply produced, like specifically from China, and you're
Hmm.
shipping it to the United States, and you're charging people like 10 times the price you bought it for.
But
Um,
what's wrong in that? Honestly, like, this thing happen in India as well. Like, basically you can get every product like very cheap in China. Every country is doing the same thing. They're importing from China, and they're actually selling at 10x the price. Even Apple is assembling its iPhone in China because they know the labor is cheap, and they can easily, like, basically they can be very competitive if they are making their iPhones in China. Even in India, a
Yeah,
lot of
but
people do the same thing. Like, they import stuff and all those things from China, and they can easily sell at 10x the price. Because still, even if they are selling at 10x the price is quite competitive. Buyers are ready to, like, willing to pay that price.
yeah, but there are very big reasons. So
well, it's based on predatory behavior. A lot of times, to get the customer, you have to go above and beyond with your advertising, and you need to really try your best to try to get someone to kind of quickly make a decision without really thinking about it. And that's my biggest gripe with drop shipping, are the people that do a lot of this false advertising. Like, hey, like they say, hey, you need to do this right now in the next like 20 minutes, or the offer is going to go back to $100 from 50.
That's a outright scam.
Yeah,
I have
that's
seen those websites.
yeah.
And they also mention only one product left in stock, just to make that impulse buying. Like, I think we are smart enough to ignore that, but a lot of people would think that, oh no, like, only this is the last piece and I have to get my hands on it, and they'll place the order quickly. That's completely outright, like, false advertising, and I think if someone sued them, they could literally get into trouble.
Yeah, as they should. But legally,
Right.
I really have no idea how that stands.
legally, there's like a lot of issues, like regulations, and that's why it's a lot cheaper in China compared to other countries. Uh, Also, like some Alibaba could be counterfeit, and like I'm not gonna name like some brands, like big names like Apple, because they would sue their ass like immediately because they have the manpower to do so. But like smaller companies might not even notice that their version of their product is being sold in China, which is basically just a counterfeit version of that product. And the reason why it's a lot cheaper is like, one, they don't have the regulatory reasons for making these things safe and like CE approved, for example. Like we have this approval rating in Europe, which is called CE, and it's really weird. Like there's a logo for this, it's C and a E, like next to each other, and what these Chinese companies do, they also have a CE logo, which means nothing. And the only difference between those two logos is that there's a space between the fake one, no, the real one and the fake one. That's it. If you look at the two logos, they look the same. So
Right.
they're clearly trying to scam you and trying to think like, yeah, this has been like CE approved and it's a safe product. There's like no toxic ingredients in here, etc. Like those are all things that, like, if you would even try to sell them in Europe, you would get, like, it will not get approved to be able to get sold. But in China, that's all okay. And also, like, they have some governmental sanctions, which makes delivery costs like ultra cheap.
Right.
That's why Alibaba is so fucking cheap.
I
And
agree in that. Government is subsidizing exports to that level where other countries are not competitive because they just want to push exports from the country. So even if they are basically if their costing is $1 and other countries can make the same product for 50 cents, the government will subsidize the company and tell them to sell for 40 cents, and the government is ready to bear the 60 cents cost just to make other countries dependent on China. One more thing is there is no IP protection in China, IP and tech. So that's why uh, as we all know, most of the huge companies have their production or manufacturing units in China. So which is why also we can also see first copy what we say duplicate products which looks exactly the same. One cannot tell what's the difference, and those products are rolling in all the countries I can think of. Like even in India, I can see first copy, what we call over here, first copy of Nike, Puma, like all those brands. I also saw a first copy of an iPhone. It looked exactly the same. Only the difference was the interface basically. From exterior, it looked exactly the same. No difference. You cannot find any difference between an iPhone or the first copy.
it's basically just an Android or something.
Yeah, it was Android in the inside. That's quite funny.
Yeah, yeah, it happens a lot. Like there was also another example that I saw on the news, which is just kids' toys, and they mentioned like if you would buy these toys in the United States or in Europe, it would not be legal because they've used so many toxic ingredients that it's actually dangerous for for kids to use.
Right,
And but they still like stamp that fake CE logo, which kind of ensures the customer that, yeah, it's been approved. Like there's nothing wrong with this product. There's no toxic ingredients. There's nothing wrong with it. But
right,
it's really a fake CE logo. Like, and the only difference between the real one and the fake one is that there's a space between it, and they've been getting away with this like for years and years, and it keeps going on. And other stuff is like that I heard of is like, I don't know, like fans that just explode, you
right.
know,
Talking
like
about toys, even Indian government banned import of toys from China because they really use cheap quality plastic, which is not good for children's. And
Yeah.
also one thing, like as like I don't know how aware of you of like other politics and of other countries. I see a lot of countries are moving out their production facilities out of China because one thing is like we had like trade war between China and US. One reason was that. So even big companies don't want to like have all their eggs in one basket. They want to diversify just in case every other country is boycotting China. They can have other manufacturing unit as well. Second thing is China is using child labor and all the stuff which goes around. Third thing is there's no infringement protection in China. Anyone like you won't believe like if you just YouTube or like China auto car manufacturers, you will see they have copied literally every like German or US car manufacturer. So let's say Ford is making a car, maybe I don't know any particular model name. Use this exact same version of that car by a Chinese company. So that's kind of like the government isn't doing anything to like stop the company from doing it because they think it's a Chinese company, and if it is copying, even though if it is copying, it is like it is basically good for their country because their companies are getting more competitive. That's one of the reason like people like countries companies aren't happy to be dependent on China anymore because they are seeing the damage which has been done till now.
Yeah, they just don't get any of the repercussions that we would get. That's the issue. Like,
Right.
so, and like everything is made in China, anyways. Like even uh, like Apple's products, like the factories are in China. So like
But
they
talking
know
about
they know how these products are made. So like if they want to make counterfeits, they can
right.
do that very easily. Like and then it's also for car products and everything. They they really already uh, have the capacity, the manpower, and the know-how to do these things, and they can decide to do it at a cheaper price, with cheaper products, with cheaper materials, less regulatory reasons, and sell them anyways. Uh, which still violates a lot of like international laws, but not in China. So
Yeah, the problem is the Chinese government isn't that concerned about international laws. I think
yeah,
no other no other country's government is that reluctant because that narrow focus that they just care about their companies. That's why like they just banned Facebook and all those companies from entering China market so that their companies could grow. You might be aware,
yeah,
I think. Yeah, there's no WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram
and,
in China. They
yeah.
have their
It's
own apps. Yeah, that's
and,
crazy.
and that's also because of censorship. Like we have the same. Like I was born in Iran. In Iran, it's the same thing. They also censor like social media, like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. And that's for censorship reasons. Like they rather have their own products, which they have control over. And look at what they're trying to do right now. CBDC, like it's going to make a digital yuan. People think like, oh my god, and they're really trying to make it like replacement for Bitcoin, even like
Right.
a digital currency that everyone could use. So it's like digital currency. But think about it really deeply. This is from a communist country that has surveillance cameras, like billions of surveillance
Right.
cameras everywhere. And if you've been spotted like in a protest, these surveillance cameras have facial recognition software that is being
Hmm.
used. And if you're like being spotted somewhere in a protest, imagine what they will do if that CBDC was introduced. They will just like
I have
take
seen
away
many
all of your
cases
money.
regarding this.
Yeah.
Like, well,
So
where people are protesting, and the government is basically like, there is no freedom to protest or question the government over there.
Yeah, right now
It's
they just
basically
put you in
dictatorship.
jail. They just put you in jail, or they fine you. Like they do that really easily. And
Right.
if they have a CBDC, they can do these things like even more easily. Like, they don't even have to ask. They don't even have to like notify you. Like you just look at your bank account, and your bank account is empty. Might even
Right.
be in the negative, just because you were spotted somewhere. And the funny thing is that these facial recognition softwares aren't even that perfect. Like I've heard like instances where people mistaken someone else, got fined, put in
That's right.
jail because of these things. But China doesn't care. Like China is more like, as long as it works like 95% of the time, we have
Hmm.
our citizens under control. We're good. It's okay. So let's just use it.
Since you brought up China, I'll just share one good business, like how business is changing over there. So, Futikap, and you, have you heard of OnePlus company? It's a mobile manufacturer. Have you heard of it?
I have a OnePlus phone. Yes,
Oh,
Awesome.
OnePlus, yeah.
So
I have a
I'll tell you
OnePlus
what
7.
exactly is happening. Since all of the Western companies who were leading in tech development, basically they outsource their manufacturing to China. All right. So I'm talking about 20, 30 years ago. This is when countries started outsourcing their manufacturing. All the IT companies they outsource their microprocessor, microconductors, all those manufacturing to China. So China grew exponentially from like 90s to 2015. This period it grew exponentially because it was consistently pushing out export products, earning huge revenue, foreign reserves basically. Uh, so the company was growing at great pace after 2015, when there's a saturation, when people understand that this we cannot grow beyond this, people start to look for new opportunities, and this is where new companies or new ideas are basically pops out. So I'll just tell what exactly is happening in China right now. So even China knows that it cannot grow beyond. Even China or Chinese people know that they just cannot rely on exports right now, or just the outsourcing work that they are doing for Western companies. So first of all, they're already making all the internal parts of any IT related thing you just mentioned, whether it's a phone, laptop, whatever. So they already know like how to make the best parts. They just need a good team who can speak in English and market their products. So this is what OnePlus did, and in just like 2 years, like who could have thought that one company can enter the mobile market, which is already so competitive. It's quite competitive. Like leaving Apple in the Android segment as well. Like we have Google, Huawei, LG, Sony, so many companies in in Android section. OnePlus entered this section and it has grown exponentially. It has captured a market share which no other telephone company could in a short span of time. This is because they already knew how to make phones. They already have all of the raw materials. They just needed a team to market their product, which they actually did. So this is what is happening right now across all the segments. There are brands popping out from China, global brands, and I think they are very soon they are going to compete with all the leading Western companies, Western tech companies, because first of all they know the in and out of the products, parts that they are putting into the product, and second, they can make it very cheap. And being over there, I think it's more good for them if they can just market the product well enough. So this is
Yeah,
how the business is changing right now.
yeah,
I'm just amazed because even in India, in the Android segment, OnePlus has has gained such a huge amount of share. People are crazy over OnePlus, and it is actually giving out a good product. With all the features like fast charging and all the stuff. No other.
yeah.
It's great phone. Like even in my family, I have three OnePlus phones, so I'm not complaining about that.
No, like in that case, they actually did a really good job. Just use their
Yeah,
resources. Like OnePlus is owned by Oppo, so Oppo was already like a big phone company, like in
right.
China.
Oppo. One more.
Uh,
It was Oppo, Vivo, and OnePlus. The owner of all the three companies is the same.
yeah, exactly. So they just use their manpower to make oh my god, so okay, how
They
can we
just
make a
use
floor?
their brain a little bit more, and they just thought that we have to market our product rather than just
Yeah,
just doing the
and then
job work and right,
and they managed to make something where they could sell the product immediately without a middleman, which was also something new, like
right.
before OnePlus started, because like every other phone,
We,
like Sony, for example, if you wanted a Sony phone or an Apple phone, yeah,
right. You
Apple's a
have
little
to
bit
go to a
different,
dealer
but
or
yeah,
retailer.
you have to go to the retail dealer to buy it, and there's a middleman, and that costs extra. Buying it straight from OnePlus itself like removes that altogether, and that's why it's cheaper. They
Right. Even
like
over here, like people can buy directly from Amazon. And even if you go to a retailer, you're going to get at the same price which is on the website, so it doesn't make any difference.
yeah,
So they just they just developed a great strategy, I believe. And I think
yeah.
this is going to happen across all the sectors because all the leading companies have have given China the the blue diagram. What we say. Uh, what do we say to a graph that tells about how about all the parts and how to assemble it? There's a particular word I cannot recall it at the
The
moment.
schematics.
Schematics or blueprint, yeah, blueprint. So all the companies have given the blueprints to China how to make products. The
Yeah,
crazy part, US has a F1, not F1, sorry, a fighter jet. So I was amazed to see. I was just seeing a video a couple of days back. So I was just shocked to see China has made exact same copy of that fighter jet and just named it with some Chinese version of it. Exact same copy, no difference.
really. So even like U.S. fighter jets are made in China, basically.
No, they aren't made in China, but I'm saying the Chinese are so good in copying things that, but just by looking into things, and also I saw a lot of news that I'm not
Yeah, but how did they get
against
the
anything
schematics?
particular, but
Because we're
no, I
talking
just
about top secret stuff, aren't we?
right. But what I'm discussing is even you might have read this across news that a lot of university resources and knowledge is being given back to Chinese government. Chinese students, I'm not against Chinese students studying in United States, but few of them are doing this stuff. I don't know if you came across across this news. I read it. So even like U.S. government was taking some steps to limit how much Chinese students have access to confidential knowledge and those stuff. Because I read it
Yeah,
somewhere, a lot of this knowledge is being given back to Chinese government. Whether you
yeah,
talk about
makes
defense products and equipments or about biotechnology and all those stuff. So these things are literally happening.
Yeah, I mean, one of the top, highest paying, like right out of university jobs right now is cybersecurity, and specifically cybersecurity, not just to protect companies, but now the government's like pushing to recruit for that because of, like you're saying, like information, like schematics and such of stuff like this leaking over to pretty much China and maybe even Russia and stuff too. And we all
Right.
heard about the Russian hackers saying, "Hey, we want Bitcoin, or else we're not gonna
Yeah.
give you your electric grid or your meat factories or whatever." I mean,
Yeah.
it's getting it's so much traction, and we don't have enough manpower to like really stop this from happening. It seems.
That is
we
happening
just
actually everywhere.
yeah, we're going a bit off topic, a bit, because like this has nothing to do with fraud or something. This is just China using their intellectual property that they've
Right. I
like
even read that Ford
adjusted.
was hacked. The Ford
Yeah,
Resources and Server Ford company, it was hacked, and all the all the confidential knowledge they had about their car and how they make their car special. That all information was hacked. So I don't doubt if people or companies are spending more to hire someone in the domain of cybersecurity. That's the need of the hour.
yeah,
Another thing, I think we're going a lot of off track. Let's come back to the topic.
yeah. Like it's interesting, but yeah,
But it's
it's
interesting, yeah, definitely.
yeah,
It's interesting than the course.
yeah. Well, the
All
course was
right, so
interesting too.
yeah, no doubt. Second, we have in the fraud was duty to inform. So professor shared a great example that when the tobacco seller asked the buyer if there's any news on war and stuff, and the buyer did not reply anything. So if he would have replied anything and said him a lie that he doesn't have any knowledge about the war, or if the buyer would have said that if that he doesn't have any knowledge, or basically the war is not going to end, basically he would be lying, and then the seller would have the power to call the deal off. So this was an interesting thing regarding how someone can behave. So if I have some knowledge which is available in public domain, which can benefit me, and if the other person, if counterparty asks me about that thing, so my action should be just to ignore it, or or just skip the statement rather than lying it. Because if I lie, the other counterparty can later call the deal off, and if I just keep it, then basically the loss lies where it falls.
Yeah,
this
which
this
is
was
what
a like yeah.
which is why many politicians get away with what they do. Like they never really impose like what they said. They just like maybe like avoided the question,
I
but
plead
that's
the
it.
fifth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And just because of that, like they can get away with it because they never imposed anyone with the lie that people think that they've been lied to. So they've never really lied. They just like made some suggestions or avoided certain questions, and which basically falls under false advertisements instead of straight up lying. And what Professor Fried was saying, like, as long as you don't really impose the lie on the other person that would
Right.
interfere with the contract, it's within the law.
One thing good to know is that politicians are same everywhere. I just thought this
Yeah,
stuck in India, but now I get it. It's the same everywhere.
yeah, it's the same like here too. Like people vote for people based on their promises, but
Right.
like that doesn't mean that it will happen. Like because they
They
haven't
just
really.
misuse their power.
Yeah, like they didn't really discuss all the details in the campaign, like fix these problems. They just said like we would, like they just promised that they would focus on the issue. That's it. And just because they
Right.
said that, then they're not really beholden to anyone to fulfill any promises. So that's why they get away with it, and that's why politics in a lot of country is less about the campaigns and more about the personalities because people need to trust the person that they vote for, which is kind of stupid, like if you ask me, because like the campaign itself is like more important, and based on the details of the campaign, you can still figure out if a person is trustworthy or not. But people, like in general, are morons and they will not do their own research. So that's why it's just a battle of personalities, and the person who has the loudest voice usually gets on top.
Right. The main problem is we cannot hold the politicians accountable for their promises, and that is everywhere. Like in every country, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
They have power. First of all, we put them in power, and
yeah.
even before we put them in power, they have that power. So like no, basically everyone, like every normal person, would fear to go against them. But that's the same thing everywhere. I believe.
Also true. That's also true. Yeah,
So one thing that we particularly learned from this part of Unit 5 was that simply taking advantage of knowledge that you have and other person does not have does not count as imposing on the other, and in that particular scenario the contract is still valid.
As long as it's public knowledge, right?
Right.
And then they also talked about like the insider trading and how,
Yeah, so
yeah,
I believe, yeah, that's a completely different thing. So talking about insider trading, the professor also mentioned, and like every every we have SEBI over here, and I think it's not the I think it's SEC in the US, right? So even they have put on some laws and regulation to control and curb insider trading and all this stuff. So it's completely illegal if you're trading insider trading, but it honestly it still happens because even the Fed and SEC can only reach out and even they have the limitations. So even in India, and I'm pretty sure even in the United States, insider trading still happens. Maybe not on a larger scale, but on a small scale, it still happens. Maybe the employees of the company and even the promoters, they can do it via via someone else's account. So insider trading still happens, but the SEC and the fair, like SEC in US and SEB in India, they are trying to curb over it. They are giving their best shot to limit it, but I think they have a long way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem is also like you can give any other excuse of why you did that trade.
Right.
So like it's the same with racism, right? You can like when you deny someone a job or whatever, like
A simple example would be, let's say you're my friend in India, Kailash Doge. I run a company which is listed company. So I know my company profits are going to bump up in the following quarters. The best thing I could do is we are friends, we both are friends. So I'll just tell you to buy a huge amount of my company shares, or maybe buy in SIPs to not to raise any eyebrows. And I know the profits are going to raise in quarter down the road, so you can come up with any excuse that I did my research, I saw the company is having a good path growth in the past, the financials have been improving, and even the financial reports were looking quite strong, so I invested in the company. So no, not even the SEC or SEBI, whatever, they cannot question or or hold you accountable for the research. So I think that's a
yeah,
pretty easy excuse anyone can come around with.
yeah. Like as long as you can come up with alternate excuses, like it's really hard to prove uh, that you made that distinct, uh, that you broke that law distinctively. So I don't know.
Right.
Like I said, it's the same with racism. Like I can deny someone for being black or something, like a job, but say like, yeah, we didn't hire him because he just didn't seem qualified.
Right. Yeah, that
Right?
happens.
So that happens too. It's the same thing. It's like as long as you cannot really prove like that they broke the law like for those reasons, then they're still kind of in the clear. We just fucked up, and which is why I hate this world. But let's not get into that. Oh.
Man, you're cursing on the stage. All right. We'll move ahead to part three, where the professor discusses about frustration. So the first example he gave us is that a person who basically who wanted to view the parade or the rally from someone's home, he offered $25 as a negotiation or as a token that he will watch the rally, King's rally, for a total of $75. So he'll pay $50 after the rally. So the rally did not happen, and and the homeowner, he was suing the company for additional $50. So I think this was quite straightforward that the homeowner who was suing like the person who wanted to view the rally more for $50, he lost the case because the rally did not happen. So I think this particular one was pretty straightforward, and
Yeah,
I,
what wasn't straightforward for me though is uh, that the judge just decided that to let the losses fall where they were. So like the $25 that the guy he can't get that back either.
right, but in that particular example, professor clarifies that in this case, which happened in 1910 or that particular time, so this was what was decided by the judge during that time. The professor mentioned if this particular case would have been held in modern times or like courts of present times, they would even entitle the person, like the potential buyer, to to get back his $25 because the rally did not happen.
Really? Did he say that? Or I thought it was just
Yes.
because like it was an unforeseen incident. And none of the parties could have foreseen that the king would get sick, and that's why they just let the losses fall where it lied. But yeah, maybe it would be different right now.
One second. I'll just check that. Yeah, Professor did mention that modern American courts might well give Henry his £25 back.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense to me. Like if you would ask me.
Right. So, few more examples the professor shared in the part 3 of Unit 5 were taxi example, taxi hypothetical, that if you're catching a flight to the airport and basically you just came to know that your flight has been cancelled. So, do you think you need to pay the fare to the taxi cab driver?
Of course.
Yeah, the contract was just to transport you to the airport. Like like he has nothing to do with the actual like
Right.
like
Whether the flight takes off or not.
yeah, like he took his gas mileage and took you to the airport, so you have to
Right.
pay him for that.
That's
Yeah,
that's a silly
that makes
question.
sense to me. That makes sense to me because like if
Yeah. If that wasn't the case, the cab driver was like, no, would be
yeah, they
homeless
would
or
all be
bankrupt.
broke. Yeah, or the prices of each cab would be like as much as the airplane itself.
Right. Because people will tell, like, if I didn't make it to the meeting on time, so I'm not going to pay you. And this happens everywhere. Like, everyone is getting late.
Yeah.
So the next example that we had was about the shipping companies, where the shipping company, like, the customer had to, like, send some oil from Gulf Coast to India. So the shipping company, the usual route was through Suez Canal, but due to some war condition, the shipping company had to take a longer route. So the company was trying to ask more funds from the client because they have to take a longer route. So what do you guys think? Like, are they doing the right thing, or they cannot ask for more funds?
Yeah,
I don't think
it's
I
like
don't
the
think they.
taxi. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say like I don't think they could ask for, because like the contract was just to deliver this to from point A to B uh, with a ship from a shipping company. Like the person who was like uh, uh, like the offer, I guess you would say. Like he doesn't know the details of shipping. He doesn't care how it goes. Like for all he cares, like the ship would have taken the longer route in the first place. He just knows the price and the destination, and that's all he cares about.
And on top of that as well, was because it was only 1/3 extra of the price it would have taken if they directly were able to get there. It was reasonable enough for them to say, "Hey, like you guys took the risk, and you guys have to, take, the fall per se as well."
Yeah, like he took
Right.
a
So
good example by saying like if you can't demand them for flying the shipment instead because like the Suez Canal is closed or something. Because
Yeah.
that would be like a
right. So that's a very valid point. Like, the extra cost incurred was only 1/3. So that's a pretty good margin, because only some of their profit, or like, or if they are incurring some minor losses, so that's a part of their business. They cannot expect to make profit, like, on 365 days. Sometimes when unexpected things are happening, so even it's the business basically. So when if the extra cost is up to 1/3 of the initial cost, then the shipping company has to bear it. And if it is more, then I think they can ask the customer and discuss the situation. But do you really think like this is how things operate in the real world?
I think so.
I think when you're dealing with like bigger numbers like they are, maybe I guess.
What do you think, Ethan?
I think honestly, I don't think this is how things would run. If you know like maybe a month or 2 months back, there was a blockade in Suez Canal due to which shipping company had to incur major losses per day. The entire world trade incurred billions dollar of losses due to 2-3 days of blockade in the Suez Canal due to a big ship. It got clogged in that narrow canal. So I think when I don't know about small companies, but if big companies who are a regular let's say Maersk, so if it is consistently supplying Apple products and moving those products maybe from China to USA, and I think if they have to take a pretty longer route, I think they would intimate the company about the route and they would ask for more funds, even if. Hmm, all right. So I just figured out while speaking this that these companies they would have more stringent contracts and all those possible clauses because they are working in this industry for quite a while. So
Yeah,
I,
yeah, and
I think
also
I
like this,
went wrong. Yeah.
yeah, and also like the like this the that case you're mentioning, like it was going on for a while, so like prices would have just increased during that time for shipment, and
Right.
uh, the delaying of the shipments uh, were were a risk factor that customers had to just acknowledge because like things like this can happen.
Right. And during that time, if someone was suing the shipping company for delayed delivery, so I don't think they would win the case basically because this was something we can say as an act of God. Basically, it was not in their particular control.
Yeah, exactly.
Professor also discussed in this particular part act of gods. So I think we can all relate to this in all of our insurance contracts. There's a particular mention of act of gods where the insurance company won't pay you, or some might even decide to pay you, but at a higher premium. Have you guys come across this?
Instead of paying you, they would do what?
So
I'm sorry.
mm, let's say you're getting a home insurance or maybe a flat, maybe a shop insurance against against fire or destruction or anything as such. So some insurance company won't cover act of gods such as tsunami, earthquakes. Some insurance companies might cover that. So it depends if they are covering act of gods. So they might charge you a higher premium, maybe.
Yeah, but that would be defined in the contract, like specifically, right? Like they would have to define that in the contract. It's not like
Right,
uh, the insurance company can say to everyone, "Well, this was an act of God, and it wasn't defined in our contract, so screw everyone who's been fucked over." Like
right.
I don't know, but I'm not really sure about that, uh, to be
I
honest.
think someone from from there are many places where earthquakes and and natural calamities are quite recurring every once in a year, or maybe twice in a year. So those particular region might people over there would definitely be more aware of, even the insurance company they would be giving provision for act of gods and they would be insuring at a higher premium because I think those areas definitely the insurance company would have products to cover uh, these particular situations.
Yeah.
The, all right, what else do we have in part five?
Well, like going back to the last part, like, is it also like location dependent? Because like in some certain areas, like earthquakes might be, well, in the Netherlands, like there are no earthquakes, not really. So
I think it
that's
is location dependent. So let's say I live in Mumbai, India. So let's say when I'm getting a home insurance against theft or maybe fire or any damage, so I don't think I would be worried enough to cover act of gods and pay the higher premium. So let's say premium is $1,000 per month for my home insurance. A hypothetical example. If I want to cover act of God as well, so I'll have to pay 20% more, $1,200. In my region, in the past 20, 30 years, there was no natural calamity such as earthquake or anything as such. So I wouldn't be worried about like I wouldn't worry about paying. Basically, I wouldn't pay 200 or 20% more each month when I know the probability of it happening is like negligible or very low. Whereas someone
Mm.
from a place where earthquakes and tsunamis are quite recurring, maybe from someone from coastal regions or islands or who lives on islands. So the places over there, the insurance product would totally be different and to tailored for the people who live over there, basically to cater to them. So they would definitely be willing to pay more higher premium to cover against act of God because they know like every 3 to 4 years something is going to happen, and it is happening since past 2 decades or a long time.
Yeah,
So I
that's
think
what I thought.
this is quite location dependent. Like even I think even where you might be living, you wouldn't be worried about any natural calamity or act of gods.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was just
Right. So
make,
it's
I was just questioning it out.
all right.
Okay.
So the next example we have was the music hall where the person who basically who booked the hall and the hall burned down. So I think this kind of thing happens like a lot of time. And basically the person booked the hall for a performance for 3 months. Before the performance could start, before the month of June, the hall burned down. So who was suing? Can you tell me who was the person suing the like who was the person suing over here? I don't think I can
Actually,
recall that.
I actually forgot this one.
All that one moment.
uh, I know it has to do with the act of God, but I don't know who was suing who. Uh,
I think they're just talking about like how right the act of God, where it's a surprise that
Right.
no
Yeah.
one,
Professor
yeah,
didn't go into any detail over this. I just read the transcripts. So yeah, like this kind of thing, like happens every day to day, like So basically, the ideal statement from professor is the laws lies where it lays.
yeah,
That's a good statement. But I don't
yeah,
think like this is how things work. Modern codes, I think I don't buy it. Like let's say in this particular example where the hall burned down. So let's say I'm booking a hall. Okay, let's do you have a concert hall. I book your hall for performance in June, July, and August. Before June, your hall burns down. So I think if I go to any court in the US, they would favor me and they would even ask you to refund me my initial deposit because you cannot serve up your end of the bargain that you will give me the hall for performance. Whereas the professor says the loss lies where it falls because he's mentioning that no one in the contract or no one of the party uh, thought that the hall could burn down. It was an honest mistake on both sides, basically. But I think the court judgment would be like different from what Professor is discussing over here. What do you
I
think?
think I think I would still win, like even in this case, because it is still an act of God in the sense that no one could have foreseen it. It wasn't something that was intended. Uh, it just happened, and uh,
Okay, so
yeah, I don't know.
I'll just change my initial question. Let's say you have insurance for your musical hall. So the entire damage that you incurred due to the hall getting burned, you're going to get it reimbursed from the insurance company. So nothing is going out of your pocket. So what do you
Yeah,
think
but
now? Who would the
yeah, but
court
that
favor?
yeah, but that insurance is for the reparations of the hall itself, not the contract that we made. like I was still dependent on your money based on the contract that we made. So I don't know, to be
Right.
honest.
This is based off of like they didn't account for this in the contract, but I agree. Like nowadays, I'm sure pretty much all companies that deal with like entertainers or sports figures have it in the contract. Like, hey, if you get injured or if for some reason you die, then we have insurance pulled out in case this happens, so we're protected. And also, if this happens, this is what you can still earn either way.
Yeah,
Wow, Frederica,
but
you just made us realize that we are in modern times. And all the examples Professor is discussing are from the 1960s, basically. Yeah, that's right. Because like people getting into contracts, they basically they try to cover all the points, to not to leave any loopholes in the contract.
yeah.
But in the next unit, that gets very interesting as well.
Talking about that, I think you'll have to lead the call for that.
Oh no, no,
Because
no! This was good. I mean, Unit 5 was long enough to where this could literally be its own call.
yeah, it's nearly an hour. Should we call this an hour and maybe discuss Unit 6? So let's say our course expires on 4th of August, right? Uh, we have, let me just check.
So you guys didn't finish Unit 6?
No,
No,
I
we
did,
didn't.
but it was a rush. Yeah.
I barely started. I couldn't finish it.
I thought it was pretty straightforward. Like it was about interpretations, and it really like clarified. Like, you know, the last time where we were all confused about Rose, the cow, or like stuff like that, and like why the course decided to side with this person while he was obviously lying and stuff like that.
Mhm.
This unit explained pretty well why interpretations is really important. Like what you write down, what you say, how it's being interpreted. Like it needs to be interpreted also in a way judge interpret it the same way. And if not, and if the judge cannot interpret it the same way, then the jury would need to interpret it the same way that both parties would have agreed on. So at the end of Unit 6, he actually said like that the examples of Rose the cow and the two ship's peerless and stuff like that would probably go very, very different because the courts will look at like what was the whole goal of the bargain, like from the beginning. Was it like to just buy a cow? Was it to buy a sterile cow? Was it to buy a cow for beef? And like judging from like what's being discussed in the last part, he said like, well, if this if this would have gone this in new courts, the buyer would have won because the contract was just about. That's nothing to do with the quality of the cow, whether it was sterile or not, whether it was meant for beef. So that's why we were so confused last time. And
Right.
that's why interpretation is really, really important.
So I
But
think
like
this
you,
is how Professor has structured the course. So in
yeah,
Unit 1, he messed up with all of our brains,
yeah,
and in Unit 2, he provided some clarity, and he's doing the same thing again. So I think
yeah,
the professor is very intelligent in how to keep people looped into the course, and in Unit 5 it was all like in the start of Unit 5 was a total confusion and how things are how the things were coming out into the code.
yeah,
So I think Unit 6 is going to bring some clarity and more understanding how things work.
yeah. But the basic point was like courts will just assess like what was the point of the contract. Based on that, like they would decide like what we should win.
Yeah. Tell me one thing, Carlos. We have 3 more units to cover before 4th of August, so we have two more Sundays, I believe. So do you think we can cover 6, 7, and 8 together? Like maybe 6 and part 1 of 7th unit on one call,
When I,
and
when I
part.
was when I was looking at the agenda, like I have 7 or 8, but looking at the agenda, I think like maybe like Unit 7 alone is a big chunk. And Unit 8 is like maybe even so big that maybe we should just do that by itself, or maybe even split that one up, because like that's like the biggest unit of them all.
Which one are you
Uh,
telling?
Unit 8 is the biggest of them all. Like when you look at uh, the agenda and on how many minutes it would take, because they were like each section alone is like 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes or something. While Unit 7 is still a bit shorter, but Unit 7 Part 1 and Part 2 together is still really big. So I don't know. It's up to
Well,
you guys. I wouldn't say like let's do 7 and 8 together. That would probably be too
look,
much.
I'm going to interrupt you. First of all, tell me how to find the agenda, because till now, when I wanted to find if a unit is bigger or not, basically I would open the unit and click on next, next, next again, and see the entire unit. How
Yeah.
long? I don't
If
like.
you if you just go to the course, like the main page where you see all
Yeah,
the
I'm on the main
courses,
page. Hmm.
and then you just open like one of the units, it will say like next to each part, like how many minutes it would take to do these courses. So, like for
I
instance,
don't.
that unit
I'm on
unit
the main
7.
course page, but I don't see that.
So I see like at Unit 7, Part 1, it's segmented into 2 parts, and the first part it says it's 46 minutes. Second part is 24 minutes. Uh, and at Unit 7, Part 2, it's 4 parts, and that goes 10 minutes, 12 minutes,
Hey,
1 minute.
I
So
linked it in the university. It's free to check out.
and if you go to Unit 8, it's like all big numbers. So it's like 32 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 29 minutes. So that alone seems to me like should be a separate call of itself. Unit 8. So I wouldn't suggest doing Unit 7 and 8 together. Maybe Unit 7, Part 1, Part 2. And we could add Unit 6 depending on how confident you are and how far you are already. It was
How
straightforward, but the videos were
how
long.
long? How long is the entire unit? Unit 7. I think I'm thinking of clubbing it together with Unit 6, because as you're telling, the Unit 6 is pretty straightforward, and it's more clarity on Unit 5th, what we studied in Unit 5. So I think we can quickly complete that, and we can discuss more on Unit 7. I think Unit 7 will have something new, and Unit 8 would be something in connection. I think the professor is doing two units related together, like 1 and
Yeah,
2, 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So I think if we can finish the 6th unit very quickly,
it
if you
seems that
believe, because
Unit 7 Part 1 is bigger than Part 2 though. Like if
all
I'm
right.
looking at, so like it's up to you guys. So if you want to say like next time is Unit 6 and Unit 7 Part 1, and then the next time Unit 7 Part 2, and then the next time Unit 8, maybe that's a good way to segment it. But I wouldn't try to combine Unit 8 with anything else, because that alone seems like
Understood.
the biggest one.
Right. Yeah, as you say, it depends on us, because I'll have to be
Yeah.
more careful before giving out targets, because I think whatever target I give, you can easily finish that. And Fredica would be trying to finish it before the call, and I would still be lagging behind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a race today for sure.
I thought Unit 6 like had really, really interesting examples, because he was actually using recent examples like on the Twin Towers 9/11 cases, to Obamacare. So based on that,
Unit 6
like I
sounds
was,
interesting.
it was a lot more interesting than the previous units, and it was straight enough that I basically got all the answers right, except for one part which I just apparently misinterpreted the question, and so I got those wrong. But like I clearly understood what he meant. So
All right.
I don't think Unit 6 is complicated. It might be long just to watch the videos, but I thought the videos were very interesting because they were about like real cases, real famous cases, and it was fun to watch at least.
All right. So what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna include Unit 6 and 7 for the next call. Anyways, I think like we are doing around 75 to 90 minutes.
How
I
many
think it's
how many more calls do you want to do? Just 2 more or 3?
so before the course resets, we have today's 18. We have 2 more weekends. So I think in 2 more calls we have to wrap up with this course. And if we really cannot do it, we can surely re-register for the course and again do it.
Yeah.
But if we can do it in 2 calls, that would be great.
Yeah, it would be difficult for you guys, I think. Like for me, like my deadline is a little bit long because I started later.
What do you think?
I think I think I can do it. I just need to start early.
Yeah, just ping me before you start, so even I'll get started during that time.
Yeah, and for 2 weeks from now, are we gonna have another course in place, or is that just kind of be on hiatus?
No, I think I'll discuss with Clayton before this course ends. So what is the next course looking like? And I'll make sure that the next course that we get into is more interesting and maybe something as I discussed in the last call, something we can apply more to our day-to-day lives. So like we had 2 contenders. One was regarding smart contracts, another one was about personal finance. Let's see
I thought
which
options
course.
was also like a big content.
What about crypto basics as well?
It's not even that is a good option like smart contracts and crypto basics, but we'll have to find if we can find some good course over these particular topics.
Oh, that's
Because
true.
personal finance, I'm pretty sure there are many courses regarding personal finance, but I'm not sure if there are free courses first of all. So we'll have to dig in. Like if the community is really participating and really interested, then we can also buy maybe a course and share the credentials so that we can all log in and watch the content. I'll have to discuss this with Clayton. Like if we can find some course on blockchain and smart contracts, that would be great.
That coin was like really interested in options, and I thought that was a good idea as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. That
Because
would help with
options can
campaign.
options are like I watched the options video, like the option call video in the internal learning sections, and like I know a bit about options. Like I know how the basics are. When you talk about like delta data, like Scholl's model, I'm not.
Frutikop,
I have no.
can you ask the bot to leave?
Yeah.
I think he has had enough of us.
Sorry.